Hello everybody. I think you saw the awesome mug. Some hot fresh coffee with this. I'll show you the mug. Isn't that pretty? And it's timely. We're going into the fall. As a matter of fact, the weather here where I live in Kansas City is only 77 degrees. That is San Diego weather. I'm loving it. So I'm going to show you how to accomplish this look. You can put this on mugs because if you notice, it is not where my mouth is going to go. So there's no problem with surface issues where it's located. So you could put this design on the outside of a bowl. You could put it on a rim of a plate. And I just saw that Bev Scarborough put these leaves on a fall pumpkin. So there's a lot of ways that you can use this technique, and a big shout out to John Grosbeck, who designed this a few years ago, and it is just a tried and true standard. All right, so if you're ready to start, I'm going to take this off of my lovely little face, and we're going to get started on how to create this design. So that awkward moment when you're rotating your phone and trying to get it set up on your desk. All right, I think we have a good shot here. So, for the sake of doing this live versus doing a class, I have gone ahead and base coat this mug with 3 coats of black foundation glaze. For those of you that have taken any class with me or with Mayco, you know we like to use Mayco foundations for just about any base coating. The reason why is this was developed to go over large areas, okay? So you can base coat with a stroke and coat, not a problem. It's an all-around go-to glaze. But this glaze just flows on so smoothly, it dries quickly. You can get a base coat on in the morning, and then your consumers or kids or customers or whomever, these can go in the kiln the same day, so that you are doing a quick turnaround on this. So I really like base coating, but again, to save time in this session, I wanted to make sure that this was already done. So, and also, when you download the technique, which the link will be put on this live broadcast after I'm done broadcasting, you can also download your 3 leaf patterns. Now, you have a couple of ways of putting these on. What I would do is, when teaching this, is while they're waiting for the 3rd coat to dry, you're going to set this aside, and then they can cut the leaves out, working with fine motor skills, doing such and such. It's amazing how many people cannot cut on a line, and looks like I'm kind of one of them. In the directions, you're going to notice it says take the biggest leaf, lay it down closer to the handle. One of the reasons why is if you did this, this is going to be too high, where the cobblestone's going to be up around the lip, and we don't want that. So we have it down a little bit lower. It stays away from the mouth area. And I've mentioned that a couple times. Here's the deal. Cobblestone is non-toxic, dinnerware, food safe, but it's not necessarily suitable for dinnerware. And that's because, can you see all how it's broken up? If you put this where food is going to go, it's probably going to trap bacteria. Since we don't put earthenware in a dishwasher, it's very difficult to sanitize. So Mayco's stance on this is, if you have a textured surface, it is better to be where food does not go or on decorative surfaces, okay? So that's why I say keep it away from the mouth or lip area. I have plenty of room for my big old mouth to go right there. Okay, so what you're going to have your students do, lay this down and lightly trace around the cut out leaf. And I say lightly because, one, you don't want to gouge through to the bisque, And you also don't want to press so hard that sometimes there is recycled material in a pencil and the carbon can cause the glaze to reject. So you just want a light sketch. Better yet, use just a cheap water-based marker that will burn off in the firing process. All right? So then the next step is you're going to take wax resist. I love this stuff. It is just the best in the market because it doesn't glump up, it doesn't glob. You don't ruin your brushes like you used to. I do recommend taking some detergent and priming your brush. Like I use Dawn. I hope they sponsor me someday. But I use Dawn dishwashing detergent. I put it on the brush first and leave it on. That way my wax brush is going to clean up nicely. Now the beauty of this is it does its job no matter what. Okay? So when I load my brush, and let's say I accidentally drop some wax right here, we are now going to incorporate that into the design element because the only way that you're going to get wax off of your project is to fire it, all right? It does not come off any other way. Even if you think you're going to wipe it off, it's not working. So with my 10-aught designer liner, I'm just going to outline. And I'm doing a fairly significant outline because I'm pressing down. See how I have my brush somewhat on a vertical? I'm also using my little finger to help balance. I like to always pull my brush towards me. It flows easier, works better. You don't have to have a really thick coat or application of wax resist. Wax does its job, and this stuff is so good. So everywhere that I'm putting wax is going to block off and repel any glaze that we apply later. All right. I don't need to go back over this. It's going to dry and it's going to be awesome. So quick outline, making a nice wide line. And as soon as I do this one, I'm going to show you why the wider line instead of a fine little outline. Okay. Outline is typically not easy for people. When you're outlining, if you really wanted a fine line, you would keep your brush more on the tip. But since I want a wider line, I'm going to hold it more like a pencil. And you can see I'm not perfect with my outlining. For one thing, that pencil's going to burn off, and nobody but me is going to know where that line was, right? All right, so the reason why I want a wide line is we have the black behind the leaf. Where we put the wax outline is going to stay black. We're going to paint within the lines with the cobblestone and then stroke and coat. So that's where you get your nice shading and shadowing. And I'm going to go over some of this with the do's and don'ts and what happens if you do something you don't want to do. All right? So that is step one. You're going to outline that. It doesn't take very long to dry. You can have a fan station, such as I have one right over here that you can't see. You can have a fan station in your studio to teach people and just let them put it in front of the fan. You want room temperature, ambient temperature. I'm going to make this a little bit wider. Okay. So you can tell it's drying. It's getting a little bit darker. Then, once all of those are dry, we're going to use our cobblestone glaze. I'm going to show you a good application, and then I have a tile for you that shows you the good, the bad, and the ugly with cobblestone. The main questions I receive on this are, my cobblestone didn't break up, or my cobblestone broke up and it's too sharp. What is wrong? So we'll do a little troubleshooting in here also. Application is everything when you're using the cobblestone glaze. So let me set this down. Can I get another palette? Have my cobblestone, AP Seal, approved product. I'm going to pour some out. Cobblestone comes in two colors, black and white. I'm using white because that way we can put stroke and coat over it and change it to any color I want. Black typically is always black, but we've also done some really cool designs, and you can find them on Mayco's website. I just made a mess with that stuff. And the project library. Okay, so I'm going to use the script liner. This is one of my favorite brushes once you get the hang of it. It is awesome. The reason I like to use it is because it has all of these long natural hair bristles. The long bristles are meant to hold a lot of glaze so that you can lay down a smooth coat. Since it is natural hair bristle, I primed my brush with some water, got the excess water off. I'm going to load my brush up nice and thick and full. Look at that. That bad boy plumped up like a ballpark Frank. That's a John Deanism. All right. So what you want to do... Oh, I left too much water in it. Sorry, kids. Let me wipe that off real fast. Little too much water. And how I could tell is see how it just got all watery and ooky? That's the technical term, ooky. I'm going to get a different brush. Okay, strip that off extra strong. Now, here, let me load this up again. It almost looks like an Elmer's glue. What I want to do is lay down my brush and pull it towards me and not mess with it too much. Now, once I hit the wax, I'm going to do this on purpose. I'm going to put some glaze over the wax. Can you see how that repels and comes off of there? It just pulls back. That's the wax resist doing its job. Now, this is the hardest part. Everybody wants to put down the perfect coat, and it's a little difficult. So try not to go back over it and over it and over it and just work it to death. Just do your best you can on getting a good even coat down. I would not say that was a good even coat there. Let's do another one. We don't have to do all three. But again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it down. Try to get a decent coat. The more opaque your layer is, the better. Because Cobblestone is just a two-coat glaze. It's a specialty glaze because it does special stuff. Cobblestone glaze is formulated to crack up and make a random pattern. So most of the glazes, or really every glaze but this one, the engineers make sure that the glaze and the clay bodies all fire together at the same rate. I thought it was fascinating. Cobblestone is developed so that it doesn't fit the clay body, and that's what gives it this cobbled break-up look. I want to set this under the fan but for a short period of time while I'm talking. So that's how we get all the breakup in bits and pieces, is it doesn't fit in the firing. You know, in the firing process, everything is expanding and contracting. When then this contracts, the glaze intentionally breaks up to give you that, you know, cobblestone pattern. I thought that was kind of interesting that they intentionally made it not do what most glazes are supposed to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply 2 coats of the cobblestone glaze. What you want to do is let the shine go away of the first coat. Here's a good example of why you'd want to try to apply it as evenly as possible. This area right here is so much thinner than right here. This area is going to dry quicker than here. Cobblestone will start doing what it's supposed to do, which is breaking up when it dries. That's why I said I'm going to put it under a fan, but for just a short period of time. I don't want it drying too much. So if you can apply it evenly, like this side is a little bit better, we're going to wait until the shine is off of the glaze. All right, so I'm going to put it under a fan, and I want to show you a couple of things. Yay, I just got wax resist all over my workstation. All right, so I did this tile to give you some examples of the good, the bad, and the ugly. A lot of people say, ooh, I really like it when it's itty-bitty breakup, and they only apply 1 thin coat, or they'll put 2 really thin coats on there. See, right here and right here, it didn't break up at all. This spot right here isn't so bad, probably because they did like what I did, is where it's thicker right there and thinner on the other areas. But you can see it barely does its job. It hardly cobbles at all. Here, I intentionally put 3 heavy coats. And you know, everybody glazes differently. Some people, 2 heavy coats is the same as 3 thin coats. You just kind of have to learn the touch. But what you don't want, and what you can see is, can you guys see how it's curling up and it has sharp edges? Like this one right here especially has popped up off of here. That's over application. This is under application. And as Goldilocks would say, this is just right. Even on this, with me trying to get 2 even coats, you'll still see my brush ran out of some glaze right here, and it's a little bit heavier because break up. So this might be something that you want to look for. My main tip for you is when people are putting this on, you want it to be opaque. So my next coat will actually, I'm going to start my brush here where it's thinner, because you know when it's fully loaded to begin with, it's heavier. And this is going to help me balance out my coats. So where it's real thin, I'll lay my brush down, and I'm getting a nice, more even coverage this time than I did the first time. Okay. Okay, that is much better than what I did on my first application. I'm laying it down. You can, I hope you can see, I'm barely putting any pressure on my brush because it is so fully loaded. I want to lay down an even application, as few brush strokes as possible. This area really is still thinner. Oh, there we go. Again, to me it just kind of looks like we're spreading Elmer's glue on, but trust me, we're not. There was a lot more going on in this clay. So I'm just going to do those 2. Okay, so I'm going to set this down for a minute because I want the shine to go away, not completely dry. Once the shine is off of this, we're going to apply 1 coat of Stroke and Coat over the top of the cobblestone. That's what's going to give me this random breakup. And what I really like about this is you cannot mess up the design. Trust me, if anybody could do it, I can. But it's worked out really nicely because your coats don't have to be really even. They don't have to be equal because it breaks up and it's going to show that base color. Now, the other thing I need to make sure that I tell you is cobblestone has to go on top of another glaze. If I put this cobblestone directly on bare bisque, it's going to pop off. It will not stick to it, okay? That's just the nature of the glaze. It has to go on top of another glaze. So that's why we base coat this. Also, I wanted to show you something that's really easy with using the wax resist, because I am in love with the wax. Here I base coat 2 good coats, maybe even 3, of the white foundation. Then I took my little brush with the wax again, and I just randomly drew on cross hatching everywhere I wanted it to be, because I really do like black and white. When you paint over wax, like I showed you a little while ago, it beads up and it typically rolls off. So I intentionally left the glaze on top of the waxed areas to show you that the wax will burn off, but the glaze is still going to stay on there. Now, if you like this look, go with it. It's artist's choice, right? That's why we call it paint your own pottery. If you want it to be crisp and clean, what I recommend is having either another clean brush or some Q-tips, and while the glaze is still wet, wipe it off. On here, I'm going to get up close. You can see there's a little residue because I let it dry, and then I tried to use a cleaning tool and scrape off the glaze. That left a little bit of a residue. So for the cleanest areas, you want to do it while the glaze is still wet on top of the wax. The wax is going to absorb in there even if I come back and try to clean it up while the black is still wet, it's not going to remove your wax, okay? It's going to do its job whether you like it or not. But I thought that was a fun class. You could do random designs, you could do monograms, you can do whatever you want. I just really like that. All right, now what I don't want to do is get this too dry. This is perfect. See how most of the shine is off of it, where it's the glossiest, like right in here, is because it's a little bit thicker. But I don't have to have this dry, and you don't want it bone dry. If you do that, what is going to happen is it's going to start doing its job. It's going to start crackling, and it's going to start flaking off. So you don't want to let it get too dry. So what I did here is we have hot tamale, we have sun-kissed. I actually picked up the speckled sun-kissed because I wanted to add a little extra something to my design. Sour apple and orange peel. I actually even have more glaze than I really need on here. It requires very little color to go over this design. Okay, also wanted to show you, see how here's my wax, and here's where I have some cobblestone glaze. Well, you want to kind of clean that up before it's fired, because it will flip that glaze. The glaze is not going to go away just because it's on top of the wax. So if you have people that glaze like I do, kind of got outside of the lines, you know, some of us kids, it's hard to stay within the lines no matter how hard we try. Or if you're like me, I like to put my feet right up against that line and lean over just as far as possible. You're going to clean this up a little bit too. This to me is all kind of relaxing and fun. Oops. Now I just took off some of my cobblestone. I can go back and add a little bit back on there and fix it. Okay? Let me show you what happened. Is I intentionally did this on this large leaf where I didn't come back and clean it up so good. So you can see some of the white cobblestone in there. Wherever I didn't get color, it's white. But I did come back and clean this up a little bit. Apparently I cleaned this up a little bit better than I meant to. Also, when we do the next step, I got a little crazy and put wax where I didn't really want it. Okay, so anyway, so now what we're going to do, again, for time's sake, I'm just going to do one leaf, pretend the whole thing's cleaned up. If you scratch down too far onto the black foundations and get down into your bisque, just reapply some foundations. So here, I'm just going to take any of these colors, and I'm just going to apply one coat. You can switch over if it's easier for you to use a pointed round also. Notice I'm laying it down a little bit. I'm just applying a coat. I'm going to grab another color. Notice I didn't even clean my brush off because I want blending. I want different colors in here. I want a little bit more yellow right there. I'll come back and add a little bit of red. Now, my anal retentive type A people are having a stroke right now because I'm not cleaning my brush and I'm blending them in really sloppy. It's okay. It's okay. Just breathe deep. Because again, don't forget, when it breaks up, you're not even going to know that I painted it that way, which I think is a very fun aspect of this whole project. Okay, so I'm kind of trying to stay within over just the white. That's also another reason why a nice big black area with the wax is a good idea, because it helps you stay within the lines, for those of you that like to stay within the lines. Okay, so we're just putting one coat of Stroke and Coat over the waxed area only. You can go a little slower than I am so that you can really make it nice and perfect. But don't forget, you don't want to go so slow that it starts cobblestoning while it's in your hand. All right, so then we're going to go around and do all three leaves. The last step is we're going to take a Stroke and Coat, and on this mug I used bluegrass. The directions give you an option to use Wine About It also, but we're going to use bluegrass, which talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back. I don't have it on my workspace for some reason. Ta-da! Okay, so bluegrass. Now, we're only going to use 2 coats of bluegrass. Here's another tip also. Like, see, here's wax on here. Did you guys notice I didn't clean my wax off into my pot? The reason I didn't do that is I don't want to get wax in the same bowl of water that I'm cleaning my other brushes, because it could pick it up and put it on here. So I'm going to clean this separately in the sink. Okay, I've got some questions here. So, un momento. Oh, hey, Tim. Hey, Colleen. Carolyn Worthy. Oh, thank you, Valerie. I appreciate that. Okay, it looks like that's all we have right now. So I'm not ignoring you. I just didn't see it. Okay, so now, Stroke and Coat Bluegrass. This is a really deep, beautiful blue. I don't use it often enough, and I don't know why. I think sometimes we just kind of get caught up in what we like and have a tendency to use the same thing over and over. Kind of like our closet, you know, you wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time. So we're going to apply 2 coats going around the leaf. Almost neglected to tell you this one step. What we did here, because sometimes it's difficult to paint around some of these areas, especially on the handle, we're going to wax off the handle these 2 parts. That way it's going to help your customer, student, mother-in-law, brother-in-law, whoever is glazing this. See, I'm just going to put a coat of wax on here so that if while I'm painting, if I get a little crazy, I keep the handle clean. Now, once again, this is your own artwork. So if you want the handle to be the blue, go for it. I kind of like the black contrast, but we all have different opinions and different likes. So do what you want to do. Oh, poopy. Just got it in the wrong color. All right. So you can see that I stuck it in the bluegrass. All right. I'll have to clean that up. So that's a good learning experience. So right now, what's going to happen is the wax is going to do its job, but like I showed you before, if you get it on top of the wax, it's going to show, right? It's going to leave residue. So once my wax dries a little bit, I'm going to come back and I'm going to clean off that blue off of there just a little bit to get rid of it. All right. Tips and tricks, that's what it's all about, really. Learning what to do if you have something you don't like. So let's go back to this again. I like using the script liner again because it has such long bristles that you can really hold a lot of glaze and lay down a nice coat onto your bisque. I used it for my wax, so sadly I'm going to have to try another brush. So prime my brush. So what you're going to do is you're just going to lay down a coat, go up to the wax line. Let me show you. Get up close again because I have wax there. See how it repels? I just think that's kind of neat. Okay, maybe it's just because I've been in quarantine too long and it's the little things that excite me. Who knows? But we're going to lay down 2 coats of glaze. You don't have to be perfect on this. Thank goodness, right? You've been watching me. And the reason I say that is because we want some of this black to show through. Let me show you. So on this mug, can you see right in through here? There are some striations of the black foundations showing through. Because with Stroke and Coat, 1 coat is watercolor, 2 coats is semi-opaque, 3 coats is opaque. This gives some highs and lows and some movement. It makes it look a little bit artsier as opposed to 3 solid coats. All right, so if you have streaky application on this particular technique, that's really kind of a good thing. All right, I'll show you again how it come in here in the wax, get it on the wax, and it rolls back. You can also, again, take your Q-tip and clean it off. So because my foundation was so dry, this first coat is drying really nicely. I'm going to come back, lay down a second coat, and continue doing this all the way around the mug. You can see the highs and lows on here, so I'm going to have nice striation on that. That's how you do it. So step 1 was base coat your mug, 3 good coats with black foundation inside and out. I do like doing the outside first. I always start with the bottom so that it dries quicker. I can use my hand inside the mug. I did use a couple of these jars when I was drying. I just set it over like that, and I put it so you could carry it over to the fan. It just makes it a little bit easier, and you don't have to touch the handle a lot. Once that was dry, we cut out the leaves, laid it down, lightly traced around with a pencil or a water-based marker that's going to burn off. Next, we use the fabulous Wax Resist with my 10-aught liner. Nice wide outline going all the way around it. Again, if you accidentally drop the brush or wax where you don't want it, continue that look. It just becomes part of the design. Then you're going to use your Cobblestone glaze, 2 coats, as evenly as possible. And if you have a real light spot, when you do the second coat, lay your brush down on that spot to start it so that it evens out. 1 coat of stroke and coat over the 2 coats of cobblestone. When the shine is off the cobblestone, you put 1 coat. You don't want to get crazy and put 2 or 3 coats. Stroke and coat can weigh down the cobblestone and prevent it from breaking up. So 1 coat is sufficient. And if you look at this, I mean, those colors are really vibrant with just 1 coat because it's such a saturated, close area. Okay, hold on. I see a message here. Is there a way to clean the wax off the brush if it dries? You know what? With this wax, you can. I don't know how it's engineered, but it is some rocking stuff. Yeah, once it dries, like this one's getting kind of hard, and I'm done cleaning, I'm going to go ahead and rinse it off. You saw how it was just hard right then? Look at that. I rinsed it off. Again, you know, that's why I like priming it with a little bit of soft detergent. Maybe it's baby shampoo, or Dawn is my favorite. You put it on here, do the wax, and then it washes off a little bit easier. So that's a good tip. But you saw how mine was kind of dry. I just rinsed it out in the water. I can use this brush again. So you don't have to worry about ruining your brushes. The stuff is gold. Okay. 1 coat over that. Clean up any areas with either a Q-tip or a scraping tool or bamboo skewer, whatever, so that you have clean areas, kind of like I showed you before. I got cobblestone where I don't want it. I'm just going to clean it off, make it a little bit neater. 2 coats of stroke and coat. In this case, it is bluegrass, but you can use other colors. And you have a very beautiful, beautiful, unique design. It makes a very pretty display. And again, as long as you keep this away from the food areas, if you put it on the outside of a bowl, if you put it on the rim of a plate where the food's not going to go. On the mug, it's low enough. It's not where the mouth is going to be. And like I said, Beth Scarborough put it on a pumpkin, and it was so pretty. Okay? So that's the tips and tricks for teaching this class. You know, you could do 2 mugs, have people come in and do 2 mugs. Like I said, on the directions, we also had the directions for Wine About It versus Bluegrass. Let them do both. So thank you very much, you guys, for, stick my face in here. Thank you very much for coming to my session and taking time to do this. If you have any other questions, just put it on the Mayco Creative Studios Facebook page, and we will see you next week. Bye.